The Galactic Council had made countless decisions over its 5,000-year existence, but none would prove as catastrophically short-sighted as the one they made regarding humanity. Fiza, the Council's youngest ambassador from the Etherian Federation, sat in silence as the vote was tallied. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 47 species cast their judgment on the humans of Earth. Banishment, declared Chancellor Vorak, his 3 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Humanity is hereby expelled from Galactic Council territory. They are stripped of all trade agreements, technological exchanges, and diplomatic privileges. Effective immediately, Earth and its colonies are quarantined from civilized space. Stein, Earth's ambassador, stood alone at the defendant's podium. His expression was unreadable, but Fiza noticed a slight tremor in his jaw. She had worked with Stein for 2 years, had seen his passion for building bridges between humanity and the stars. Now those bridges were burning. On what grounds? Stein's voice cut through the celebratory murmurs of the council. Recklessness, Vorak responded. Unpredictability. Your species has been part of this council for merely 70 years, yet you've caused more incidents than any civilization in recorded history. The unauthorized terraforming of Kepler-4 for 2b, the military expansion beyond your designated sectors, the AI experiments that nearly destabilized 3 neighboring systems. We asked for guidance, Stein said quietly. We were ignored. We requested resources to safely develop. We were denied. We warned you about the Xyathoc incursion in the Outer Rim. No one listened until human ships held the line. Irrelevant. Another counselor interjected. Your species is dangerous. This decision is final. Fiza watched as Stein gathered his materials, each movement precise and controlled. Their eyes met briefly across the chamber. She wanted to say something, to apologize for her Federation's vote in favor of banishment, but the words died in her throat. What could she say? That she had argued against this in private sessions, that she believed humanity deserved better. It wouldn't change anything. Very well, Stein said, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. Humanity accepts your judgment. We will vacate all shared stations, withdraw from council space, and cease all communications as mandated. You won't hear from us again. Something in his tone made Fiza's secondary heart skip a beat. It wasn't defeat. It was something else entirely. The withdrawal happened faster than anyone anticipated. Within 3 standard months, every human presence in council space simply vanished. Space stations that humanity had helped build were abandoned, cleaned and deep. Trade routes went silent. The human colonies in disputed sectors packed up overnight, leaving behind nothing but empty habitats and a few cryptic messages, thanking their non-human neighbors for their hospitality. At first the council celebrated. Good riddance, Vorak proclaimed. Now we can return to proper order. But Fiza noticed the cracks forming almost immediately. The Kepler-4 for 2b terraforming project, which humans had recklessly started, had actually been stabilizing the climate of 3 neighboring worlds. Without human maintenance, those systems began to deteriorate. The military posts humanity had established in the Outer Rim hadn't been aggression, they had been the front line against pirate raids that now surged unchecked into council space. Worse still were the economic impacts. Humans had been prolific traders and innovators. They had introduced fusion techniques that increased energy efficiency by 40%. Their medical advances had cured 17 previously terminal diseases across multiple species. Their music, art, and literature had become surprisingly popular among young people across the galaxy. All of it disappeared in a matter of months. Fiza found herself assigned to investigate what humanity was doing in their isolation. Council intelligence had detected unusual energy signatures from human space, but their probes were being blocked by some kind of sophisticated jamming field that hadn't existed before the banishment. They're probably collapsing, Vorak assured the council. Without access to our resources and knowledge, humanity will regress. Give them a few years, and they'll come crawling back, begging for reinstatement. But Fiza wasn't so sure. She had seen Stein's eyes that day. That hadn't been the look of a defeated man. 2 years after the banishment, the first rumors began to circulate. A Zephyrite merchant ship claimed to have been saved from a catastrophic engine failure by a human vessel, but the ship's design was unlike anything in the galactic database. A Morlaxian explorer reported stumbling upon a human colony on a previously uninhabitable moon, thriving with technology that seemed decades ahead of Council standards. The Council dismissed these reports as exaggerations or hoaxes. Then the returned. The ancient enemy emerged from dark space with a fleet 3 times larger than their previous incursions. They swept through the outer rim like a plague, overwhelming Council defenses that had grown complacent without the human buffer. System after system fell. The Council's united fleet assembled, for what many believed would be the final battle for civilized space. They were losing badly when the humans arrived. Fizzer was aboard the Etherean flagship when the sensors detected them 67 ships emerging from faster-than-light travel using a drive system that shouldn't have been possible. The vessels were sleek, deadly, and utterly unfamiliar. At their head was a dreadnought that dwarfed even the Council's largest carriers. Communication channels crackled to life, and Stain's voice filled the bridge. Older now, but still unmistakable. Council fleet, this is Admiral Stein of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We've been monitoring the situation. We're here to help, not because you asked, but because it's the right thing to do. What followed would be studied in military academies for generations. Human ships moved with impossible precision, their weapons cutting through Zyarthok armor like it was paper. They deployed strategies that seemed to predict enemy movements before they happened. In 4 hours, they turned the tide of a battle the Council had been losing for 3 weeks. When the Zyarthok retreated, Chancellor Vorak, who had survived the battle in his command ship, requested a direct line to Stein. Help was all Vorak could manage. Stein's image appeared on screen, and Fizzer gasped. He looked younger, healthier. You banished us from your space, Chancellor. You didn't banish us from growing, without the restrictions of Council regulations, without having to constantly justify our every innovation, without being held back by bureaucracy. We flourished. The technology is ours, developed by human ingenuity, human cooperation, and yes, human recklessness. We took risks you wouldn't allow. Some failed spectacularly, others worked beyond our wildest dreams. We didn't stick around and wither away like you expected. We left and became something you never imagined we could be. Fizzer found her voice. Will humanity return to the Council? Stain's expression softened when he saw her. Fizzer, it's good to see you again. Then his face hardened. No, we won't return. We've built something Batora coalition of species, who are also deemed too reckless or too dangerous by your Council. We're thriving on our own terms, but we won't abandon the galaxy to threats like the We'll help when called, not because we owe you anything, but because that's who we choose to be. The transmission ended, and the human fleet departed as quickly as it had arrived, leaving the Council to contemplate their catastrophic miscalculation. Years later, Fizzer would leave the Galactic Council to join humanity's coalition. She would find Stein again, older and wiser, leading a federation, built not on rigid hierarchy but on mutual respect and shared ambition. You were right to leave, she told him one day as they watched ships from a dozen species work together in harmony. We didn't have a choice, Stein replied, but sometimes being forced to stand alone is what teaches you to truly fly. The Galactic Council still existed, diminished and humbled, while humanity and its allies reached for stars the Council had deemed forever beyond reach. In trying to banish humanity to irrelevance, they had instead freed them to become something extraordinary. The Council chose banishment for Earth. Humanity didn't stick around to care.